I'm sorry to say you've been lied to about guitar modes. This lie holds guitarists back, keeping you stuck for years. In this lesson, I'll reveal the true force-driving modes of the major scale. If you've been tricked into thinking modes are just about moving scales up and down the neck, it's no wonder they never sound right. The missing key is chords. It's chord progressions, not scales, that shape the true character of each mode. Don't believe me? I'll prove it using examples from Pink Floyd, Megadeth, Iron Maiden, and more, showing you exactly how these modes move our emotions with chord progressions. Get my scale Bible for free in the description below. End your frustration with my music theory course to uncover the 5 levels of music theory. This is a total game changer for songwriting, improvising, and learning tracks by ear. It just costs your soul. Now, to prove my point about how chords are more important than scales, I'm going to improvise a little bit over a Dorian backing track, and I'll be changing modal scales throughout that. And what you're going to see is that it doesn't change the sound regardless of which scale pattern I use. I'll be shifting to like Lydian and Ionian and Phrygian, and despite me playing different scales, the track will still sound Dorian because of the chords in the background. Okay, the track is in A Dorian. I'm going to start by playing the C Lydian scale. Sounds very Dorian, right? Now let's try the D Mixolydian scale. Still the same vibe, right? Okay, let me try, let's take G Ionian. G Ionian scale, right? No change, still a Dorian sound. Let's do one last one. Let's say Aeolian, a sad scale. Or actually, let's make it even crazier. Let's go F sharp Locrian. Let's see if that changes the sound. Still sounds just completely Dorian. I hope you could see through that experiment that regardless of the scale pattern I used, because of the chords in the background, automatically will always sound Dorian. Next, I'm going to demonstrate each of the 7 modes of the major scale with a popular song. I'll be pointing out the specific chord progression that drives each of these modes so that you can use it for your own wicked ends. Up first is U2's With or Without You. So With or Without You by U2 is a great example of the Ionian mode. We're in D Ionian here, and I want to transcribe that scale for you really quick. So it's D, then we move up to the 2nd degree, E, then we go up to F sharp. From there, we hit the 4th degree, G, then we have the 5th degree, A, up to B. Let me just zoom out a little bit here. Then we're going to move up to the 7th degree, C sharp, before coming back to the tonic D. To make chords from this scale, what you basically do is you select every other note. So if we do that, our first chord is going to be D major. And that's exactly what we hear in this track, With or Without You. And then it goes through a progression which, if you use Roman numerals, is 1, 5, 6, 4. So the one chord being D, then you go up to the 5, right? D, E, F, G, A would be the next chord. Like that. Let's get our label in there. And then it's going to move to the 6th chord, B minor. Right? A nice sad chord. And finally, it finishes off on a G major. And that is the Ionian chord progression. You're going to hear that over and over again in songs. Now let's move on to the 2nd mode of the major scale, which is Dorian. And to demonstrate the Dorian chords, we're going to look at Pink Floyd's Great Gig in the Sky. Get it, girl. Now, Pink Floyd's Great Gig in the Sky is an incredible track, and it uses the G Dorian mode, which would be relative to the key of F, if you want to think about it that way. So we begin on the root G, then we move up to the second degree A, and then we have this B flat, because the key of F, has one flat. That's the B flat. Then we're going to move to the fourth degree C, the 5 D. Here's the magical raised sixth degree that really gives Dorian its unique character. Then we have seventh degree. Whoops, there's the seventh degree F, which stands for fudge, tastes good. And then we're back to the root G. Now, the real important aspect here is the chords that come from this mode. This is exactly what you hear in Great Gig in the Sky, just over and over. It almost induces like a hypnotic trance. So first, try using this bar chord shape here. And that A sharp really annoys me because it's not in this key, right? So we're just gonna correct that to a B flat. And then from there, we have the 4 chord next. So the 4 chord from G would be C, right? So we're just gonna do a nice thick open C chord here, which sounds just gorgeous. So if you put those two together, what I'll actually do here is demonstrate this on guitar here. So we have our G minor moving to the C. What a gorgeous sound, right? And you could play that in different ways across the neck if you wanted. But it has a dark and light component, which is absolutely beautiful. The third mode of the major scale is Phrygian, and to demonstrate the Phrygian chords, we're going to be looking at Megadeth's Symphony of Destruction. Now here's Megadeth's Symphony of Destruction. You can see right here that we have an F power chord. Let me put that in there. And that goes down to an E power chord. And it basically just repeats that theme over and over again. So if we play this, you can see all the primary elements of Phrygian are present. We've got the minor third there, of course the root, and the flat second degree. So if you tabbed out the E Phrygian scale, you begin on the root E in this case, and then we move up to the flat second, which is a defining feature. From there we're up to the third degree G, then we ascend to the fourth A, the fifth B, up to the flat 6, which is a very chilling melancholic note. Then we have the seventh before arriving back at the root. And the chord progression here is absolutely beautiful in a haunting way. You begin with E minor, and then the next chord you play is actually an F chord, but still with that root E in the bass. So I'm gonna just call that F basically. But on guitar, it's really simple. You just play your E minor and then move up that shape a half step, but just make it major there. And I could listen to that for days on end. It carries so much emotional weight. We're moving on to the fourth mode of the major scale, which is Lydian. And to demonstrate the primary chords in action for this very uplifting mode, we're going to listen to Tom Petty's Here Comes My Girl. Tom Petty's Here Comes My Girl is a flawless example of the Lydian mode. So it's in A, and the two chords at play here are A, and then this is so beautiful. We have this B chord over an A, and I'm just going to call that a B to keep things really simple, because that's really what's going on. You're basically just playing an A and a B, but you're always keeping that A in the bass, and that is the primary feature. Any of these modes, you have to keep that pedal tone going. It's all about the P word here, guys. So let's map out the scale itself. Just increase that value. Okay, A Lydian, it's relative to the key of E, so there's going to be 4 sharps in this scale, a lot of sharps. So we got the root A, then we're moving up to the second degree B, the 3rd degree C sharp. Here's the characteristic raised 4th degree in Lydian, which is really beautiful. And then, yeah, we're up to the 5th, the 6th F sharp, we got a raised 7th here, G sharp, before arriving back at A. But it really comes down to these 2 primary chords. This, if you're going to write a song, this is why I emphasize chords over scales. This is the big lie, right? The idea that modes are just scales is going to keep you trapped if you ever want to write songs, because what drives songs is really chords. Now we're moving on to the 5th mode of the major scale, which is Mixolydian. And to demonstrate the incredible chords of Mixolydian, we're going to listen to Boston's More Than a Feeling. Now this track is so cool, More Than a Feeling. It has this arpeggiated 12-string acoustic guitar line that just shimmers. And here it is. Let's just listen to that. And throughout this arpeggiated section, there's really a chord progression happening. If you were just play it as block chords, it'd be that D, and then it would be a C, and then a G over B, down to G, and then back to D. But really, the essence of this mode comes down to 2 chords. And the first one is that D. And the next one is really this C sound. And actually, I'll voice this with the D still in the bass, because that's always the best way to hear these things. So there, you can really hear it. Listen to that. Just what that mode really signifies to me is an uplifting in the mood. You know, it's very much the official mode of classic rock, and classic rock's kind of overarching theme is let's party and have a good time. We've arrived at the 6th mode of the major scale, which is Aeolian, and to demonstrate this haunting and chilling sound, we're going to be listening to Iron Maiden's Fear of the Dark. What an amazing vibe being at a show like that. Everybody's singing the melody that you're playing, and here's that gorgeous melody. And what really drives this track, you know, you could make that sound major if you wanted just by altering the chords, which again is the whole point of this lesson. Chords over scales. Chords are more important than scales when it comes to communicating the language of music, and the reason is because they contain more data. If you think about a chord, you know, it's 3 notes at once, where a scale is just 1 note at once. The D Aeolian mode is what Iron Maiden is using here. It's the saddest of all keys, and we begin on the root D, ascend to the 2nd E, the minor 3rd, very important, F. Then we have the stability of that 4th degree, the 5th, and then we're going to do a flat 6th degree, which is so haunting and beautiful. Then we're moving up to 7th degree C before getting back to the root. And the chords here, again, are the star of the show. So let's say, there'd be many ways you could voice this, but let's say let's do a stock D minor voicing. Then we're going to move to B flat, which, there we go. Voice like that. And then let's say the C is next, right? So we'll go here before coming back to the D minor. So your progression here, we got the 1 to the flat 6 to the flat 7 C before coming full circle to the D minor. So beautiful. These are just all variations on those chords. But the important thing to get across here is the mood. The vibe of this scale is sad. So if you're in a melancholic state, try using the Aeolian mode to reflect your inner emotions. Now we've arrived at the final mode of the major scale, the 7th mode, which is also the devil's favorite. Of course, I'm talking about the Locrian scale. And to demonstrate this scale, we'll be checking out Judas Priest's Painkiller. Painkiller just gets me amped up every time. Here's the riff. Check this out. This is crazy. You can see they're very clearly emphasizing the P word here, pedal tones. So that open E is just constantly repeated to establish a tonal base. And then we have the flat second, which is, you know, F, if we're in E Locrian, right? And here's the minor third, G. And we also have the flat fifth degree, B flat. So it contains all of the primary pitches. I don't think a lot of people really conceptualize of this song as being in Locrian, but you could really make a strong case here. I guess you could also say these are passing tones, but to me, you know, it really just sounds like that E is the bass. Yeah. It pleases the devil for sure. So let's take a look at the scale. You got the root, then you go up to the second degree, F, the minor third, G, and then we've got the fourth degree, but then here comes the flat five, B flat, right? That's a signature tone, the sixth, the minor sixth, and then we got the flat seven back to the root. This scale, man, it's not an easy one to use because your home base chord here is really that, which, I mean, let's just make this a flat here. What are you going to do with that chord, right? That is the E half diminished 7 chord, minor 7 flat 5. There's, you know, you could also think of it as G minor 6, or you could play it over the 5th, the flat 5, which gives it kind of like a esoteric Lydian sound. There's even over the D. Give me the D, baby. Went back to the root. So there's your options, but any one of them doesn't sound like a home, you know, resting point. So the true character of this mode is just dissonance. If you're in my modern guitar mastery class, your homework is going to be to write 30 seconds of music using 3 different modal progressions. So you could choose like Phrygian and Lydian and Mixolydian for an example. Really give me a clear sense that you're playing in a specific mode. And to do that, of course, you want to be repping a pedal tone. So repeat the root, change the chords on top, you know, use those primary modal chord progressions, and you should have a really strong modal case you can make. Until next time, shred until death.